Mark. Right, let me clean this up. I've got something I want to talk about because I've been wanting to just mention it for a while, and I can put it on the ticked and done list. It's to do with goal setting, and there's a couple of things I've picked up recent past to do with goals that might be of use to anybody who's listening who has particularly a business goal. And I assume you have, Ed and Jim. You've got something that you aspire to achieve.
Certainly do.
You will have your, and I bet it's got a number attached to it.
Has lots of things. I definitely have I've broken it down into segments. I have two main plans: a 5-year and a 10-year plan, and they're always sort of revolving and get updated. But one of my earliest mentors, when I sort of came out of university, and he said, have you got your plans written down? I said, yeah, they're in my head. He said, no, you need to write them down, because if you don't, you lose track of what you're trying to achieve, and then you maybe start to get frustrated. So I'm all for it.
And you're right, there is some magic in writing it down. But this is more to do with the mental process you go through. And the first thing that I picked up here is something that has been said for a long time, and it's obvious and true in sports. It's to check whether you're thinking about avoiding something or actually moving towards and achieving something, to approach something or to avoid. So when you think about your 5-year plan, is there anything in there you can declare to... I'll give you an example when I'm talking about... I did some work with a rally driver, and one of the things he initially said was, well, my goal is to make sure I don't roll the car. That's not a very useful goal.
No, that's taking the race as a threat.
Exactly. It's taking... You're threatened by the race, and this article did something useful. It pointed out that when you are threatened, it looked at the physiological differences between being threatened and being excited and wanting and challenged. And so, as you say, when this guy was threatened by the prospect of potentially rolling the car, threatened by the prospect of potentially not hitting your financial goals or whatever your goals are, Jim, in the business, it says that physiologically your muscles tighten up, you hold your breath, your balance goes backwards onto your back foot, that's what the metaphor we use, and your centre of gravity rises. So physiologically your motivation is obviously to flee from threat, so it's the old fleeing thing. But then it goes on to say that feeds back to your mental state, which affects your confidence because you don't feel capable of confronting, you're feeling capable only of running away. And so if you're faced with a lion, you don't feel confident of tackling and beating and charging the lion, you are ready to run away. And they're not useful preparations for being at your best. So you want to be at your best during the 5 years. I'm assuming somewhere in that plan it requires you to be good at...
Absolutely, to run the sort of the size of MRIB as we are now, as a sort of 60 plus staff, you have to prepare, and I do have moments when you're thinking, gosh, I've got all these things that I'm trying to do, and you just have to pause, take breath. And for me, a real part of the sort of psychological getaway is I go for some exercise, go for a run, and you then clear your mind, and then, as you said, you come back and you're calmer, and then you approach what you need to do with the right mindset.
And approach being the operative word, because the alternate goal, so whatever you're going for a walk for, whatever is on your mind, if it's the equivalent do you play golf?
I play golf.
Play golf, Jim?
I have played golf, if it can be called that.
So you get next to the water, and there's a tee right there, right next to the water on your left. Big, nice, beautiful, shimmering pond of water. And if you're thinking, don't hit the ball in the water, that's not a very useful thing to be thinking.
Nope, because you will end up hitting in the water.
I always take a ball out of my bag and throw it in the water just to get it over
just to get it over.
Make sure you get an old ball.
Sorry?
Make sure you get an old ball.
Yeah.
I have... golfers often tease each other and wind each other up a bit, depending on what circles you move in. And often when someone is about to play the shot you're talking about over the water, someone will say, make sure you don't hit it in the water.
Because,
mind games.
Subconsciously they know. And a friend of mine who's a very switched on guy was sort of addressing the ball when this was said to him, and the reply was, what water?
Yeah, exactly. In business, then, I suppose, if you've got something coming up which is a threat, if you can reverse it and see it as a challenge, because let me just read out the physiology, which is the interesting bit about this paper. The challenge reaction produces an entirely different set of responses physiologically. You feel fired up, but you're more relaxed, although you feel fired up, and you've got the right amount of adrenaline to make you feel strong, quick and fast. Your muscles are loose, you take steady breaths, and your balance is on the balls of your feet and the centre of gravity lowers. Psychologically, that feeds back to feeling a singular motivation to go at the thing that is challenging you and overcome it. So you build your confidence that you're capable to surmount the challenge, and you feel more likely to feel excitement, inspiration, pride and courage to go for it, as we say.
It kind of goes back to what you'd said earlier about you want to be a 25 million pound company, but another way of looking at it from the identity side is what kind of a company do we have to be? What challenges are out there that we should overcome, as opposed to the threat of not making it to 25 million? It's about turning that what could be conceived as a threat into the challenge, and what the article does say something about the way you view that. Is I'm trained, I'm educated, I know what to do to overcome that challenge. I'm going to go out there and do it, is a much better way rather than the avoidance of a threat.
We have everybody has goals in business, even if you don't articulate them, think them through and write them down. There's still something you're trying to achieve, otherwise you're wandering around, I don't know, doing things at random all day. And this is just suggesting that there are good reasons. It's proof almost of proof of the pudding is that there are good reasons why it's worth thinking about how you're thinking about what you're trying to achieve.
It is. I got to listen to Chris Hoy, and part of the training building up to the Olympics, they brought in a psychiatrist, and he was like, I don't need a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
He said one of the things they talked about is, and I think this happened to him in the World Championships, you're about to go out, but the person who's just raced has beaten the world record. So how do you prepare for yourself? And I think you've also, in the business world, you have sometimes got to get yourself in the mindset and thinking ahead and looking at the scenarios and how you would respond to that. Because if you don't prepare and you're suddenly put on the spot, the answer or your delivery or the decision you make could be wrong. Not catastrophically wrong, but just a wrong decision to make. So you do, in business, have to plan, have to think, give yourself time out. So you kind of analyse, but you also got to be careful. If you spend all your day analysing, you end up not actually doing anything. So it's a balance.
It's the book is a very interesting book written by the guy here, the psychiatrist too, which is unusual to find psychiatrists dealing with sports people. But it's were you there when we talked about it, Jim? We talked about humans, chimpanzees, and computers.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I was here for that.
Oh right, okay. It's an
we did that
interesting
one.
little. It's the basis of the book is about the chimpanzee that's in all of us.
Oh yeah, the banana. Oh,
And the banana.
I've heard you mention that before.
Been there, done that.